Hi everyone and welcome to TEP Town Hall episode 7. And in this episode what we're going to do is do part 2 from last time's episode where we looked at some of the community projects that we met and interviewed with in our very first foundation trip in 2012. And for this episode we're going to look at some of the conservation projects that we met and spoke to. Now these are just some snippets, some highlights, a few selected projects that we met with throughout our 250-day journey around South Africa. There's plenty more that you can go and look at on our website and plenty more projects that you can find out about. So these are just some of the interviews that we did during that mammoth 250-day journey around South Africa, where we visited 192 different towns and communities and met with over 100 different conservation and community projects around South Africa. So let's start off with day 22 when we were in Lambert's Bay as we were heading up the west coast of South Africa, and we stopped into Cape Nature's Bird Island. Have a look at this.
Sure, so here we are, January 22nd, 2012, day 22 of the expedition project, and as you can see we're at a place with a lot of birds. To be more specific, we're at Lambert's Bay, Bird Island, the conservation project in the area. We're just waiting to speak to the conservation manager to find out a bit more about the area, the changes, the last 10 to 20 years, where we think things are going. Obviously birds like this are very vulnerable to climate change and various other environmental impacts, but we'll see what he has to say. Unfortunately Maddie's not feeling so well today, Bert's been a bit under the weather the last couple of days, so just kind of been chilling out and catching up on admin. But glad to get out today. I'm quite surprised by what I've seen so far. Lambert's Bay Harbour is very quaint and very cool, nice little fishing harbour, and obviously this, quite a cool sight. You're probably thinking noisy and stinky, but it's pretty cool.
An incredible amount of birds. So next up, day 72, we're up on the Botswanan border in the middle of the Kalahari, and we were visiting a nearby reserve, and in particular for this video, a hyena lair. So have a look at this.
We're here at a hyena's lair, as you can see.
They eat meat. These are all Croatian. Dit is een paar sporen wat daar net hier gelopen. Ja. Dit kan ook zijn. Wat is dat? En how do they build that? They just pick it.
So we're not here right now, but this is where they sleep. Let's see.
Next up is day 80. Now we're in an undisclosed location this time due to the security around rhinos and rhino conservation. So we did a few interviews with a fantastic guy and guide who's tell us a little bit more about the rhinos and some of the other animals. So have a look at this.
What anti-poaching stuff do you have going on to prevent poachers here? Yeah.
It's just patrolling, nothing else. Not like other reserves, because like the national reserves, what they're doing now, they put in the triggers and the horns, but it doesn't help. That's the main problem. It doesn't help.
What do you agree with dehorning them?
No, I don't agree with the horning them, because it's the bad thing to do. Because they do have that horns for reasons.
But do you agree with dehorning them so that poachers don't poach them?
No, I don't. I totally not agree with them, because you'll make them suffer. They're gonna suffer because of the horning.
What about controlled trade of rhino horn? So when you just allow a certain amount to be sold and traded, so that the poaching doesn't get out of hand.
That's gonna also decrease the amount of the rhinos. It's also gonna it's not gonna help as well. I think the best thing is to put more security, but how, I really don't know. But as we know that there's many ways to kill a cat. There's something more they can do.
Yeah.
But I'm totally not agreed with the horn the rhinos, because those are horns. They're there for a reason. They're helping themselves with that horn. Yes. Why are they taking a big role?
The impala.
The impalas. You know why? Because the impalas, they're giving birth each and every year.
Yeah.
Each and every year. Not like the other animals, like the gemsbok, like the sables, like the tsesebes. Because they're taking a big role, because they maximize, they keeping balance of the what do you call it, population, I can say.
Okay,
They're keeping balance of the population from the predators. Because the predators, the impalas and the other ones, they so easy to be caught by the predators. So most of the time, the predators, they're going for the impalas, they're going for the wildebeest, they're going for whatever. So the other animals like sables, tsesebes, they survive because of the impalas. Because most of the time, they are the more animals in the reserve, and the predators, they're going for them. So they keep taking part in life.
Cool. Cool.
Hello. They're so cute. I like their ears.
And if you can look at the antelopes, all antelopes, they do have a color at the back.
Yeah.
Like a pale color at the back, like tsesebe.
Yeah.
It's pale at the back. Like a waterbuck, it's got a ring, a circle ring at the back. Like hartebeest, it's very pale at the back. Like kudu, when it's running, the tail, it's flat, the tail up, then it's white.
Is that so people can't see them so much?
No, that mark, it's telling something.
I don't know
Yeah.
what it is. Do you know?
Yeah, it's telling something. Do you know what this is telling?
No.
That sign, I think you'll know after I tell you.
Yeah.
It's called follow me sign.
Okay.
Yeah. When you run, maybe you come out from the car, you run to it's now they're gonna run. Even if they spread, but somewhere else they're gonna meet together and run together. So what is going on? They're gonna look at that pale color at that side, then they're gonna follow you. Like a kudu, when it's running, it's flipping its tail up, then the white color comes out. So the youngsters or whatever who comes at the back is following that side.
Sure. Cool.
And now moving on to day 119, we're in the Timbavati Private Reserve, and we're hearing a little bit about some of the elephant research they're doing there.
Tell you what type of information we found with these collared elephants. We found that the home range size is really enlarged. So previously, before people in the 1960s that were just using the VHF telemetry and not the satellite phones or cell phones, they estimated that the home range size was about 1,300 kilometers. Oh, sorry, 300 square kilometers for bulls. And we found that the average size is about 3,000 square kilometers. And some of the animals that we've collared, like this big bull, for instance, the same animal as up there, he's got a total home range size of over 5,000 square kilometers. We also collared a young little bull that was 12 years old, and he had a home range size of over 8,000 square kilometers. So because we're getting data all the time, and it's not dependent on the researcher actually finding the animal, we're actually seeing to what extent these animals are moving, which has sort of rewritten the textbooks. I know Michael Chase in Botswana has recently collared a young bull, and he moves over 20,000 square kilometers over 5 countries. So that just gives you the idea of the scale at which elephants can actually move, which could be safety benefits. So what we try and do is we try and construct what we call a fear landscape, where we try to get to understand where elephants are feeling safe and unsafe. And if you can find animals on demand by means of the collars, you can really start gathering meaningful information. So what we do is when we locate an elephant, a collared elephant, we use the collared elephant as our point that we navigate towards. But obviously any elephants that we see on the way there, we also record this data. We give them a score of 1 to 4 within the first few minutes of sighting them. 1 would be that the animal's totally relaxed, right up to +4 it immediately charges you, or -4 it immediately runs away. And if you consistently collect this type of data as you move across the landscape, you can begin to understand where elephants are feeling safe or unsafe, because we represent the only enemies in these ecosystems. If we were working in Botswana, it would be a bit more complicated, because lions have recently learned to predate on elephants. So if you see a very freaked out elephant, it might have nothing to do with the human footprint. But in these ecosystems, it only has to do with people. We represent the biggest enemy. So depending on the land use practice, you can begin to understand where elephants are feeling safe and how that is influencing them. Here's data from our colleagues up in Kenya, and in Kenya none of their reserves are entirely fenced, so it's different to where we are down here. But they do have these protected areas, which are basically, these are just lines on a map that people have constructed, but yet the elephants are totally aware of where it's safe and unsafe.
Now, on to day 123, we're in the Blyde River, Hoedspruit area, and we met the very famous Jessica the hippo.
Basi anakan drive yan.
Lekker baby. Dankie my liefie. Ja.
So she's never hurt anyone?
No. Okay, my liefie. This is a ladies only thing.
Ladies only.
She does not meant to do a sister on that.
Now, still on day 123, we popped in to go and see the Hoedspruit Endangered Species Centre and learn a little bit about their cheetah breeding program and cheetah conservation. Have a look at this.
How do you manage to sort of strike that difference between running a conservation centre and a tourism attraction as well?
Ooh. My English is not that good.
Oh, it's fine, don't worry.
So, do you want to know how we separate the two?
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of centres, because there are obviously a lot of conservation centres out there, and there's a lot of tourism parks where you can go and see animals and get up and close and personal with them, and sometimes the tourism aspect will take over the conservation issues when people start seeing the revenue that can be brought in. So how do you strike that balance where it can be crossed so easily?
Okay, you need, for a place like this, if I take an example, tourism is a very positive side because it brings in income, which is a good thing, but we don't overdo it. For instance, we don't, if you can see most of the enclosures, we don't force the animals to do anything. It's their own, they can choose. For instance, if she doesn't want to be petted, she can just stand up and walk away. We won't force her to do it or anything. It's the same as when if people take photos. They take photos through the fence, but we don't force the animal to sit and pose like you would say it's their job, as you can say. And then for the breeding purposes, we do take that very, it's very important to us. For if we breed with the female, then nobody bothers them except when Kirsty and Mrs. Ritter. Because, or sometimes not even me, only Kirsty and Mrs. Ritter will go, because then the public will have nothing, or they won't have nothing to do with it, but we won't bother them. So they're on their own. It's like they would have been in the wild. We'll only go and feed them and check up on them, but we won't bother them or anything.
Okay.
And now, day 144, we're in the Manyoni Private Game Reserve, and we spoke to Rhino River Lodge's owner, Dale. Let's have a look what he had to say.
We're busy catching impala this morning. As soon as you put a fence around any area, you have to manage it. Our most important resource is obviously the vegetation. So with all of the game species, we try and manage their numbers in such a way that if we were to go through a dry period, we're not going to do any damage to the vegetation and hopefully not lose too many animals. So that's why every year we have to take off certain numbers depending on the rainfall and everything else.
Now we're working our way down the east coast of South Africa, and this time we're in Port Edward. It's day 186, and we met with the Crags Wildcare Centre. Have a look at this.
What do the people think in a Transkei in the Eastern Cape, which is largely a black rural area? I said, what do they think about what we do, helping animals? And she said, they think you're mad. And basically what you do, they say, what are you working with meat for? What are you trying to preserve? It's meat to be eaten. So the whole purpose, we come from a totally different background. Ours is to protect and to look after that, where they come probably from a largely impoverished background, and it's just a source of food, and you just eat it. And so there's no, and sadly enough, there was a young black girl that was in the Transkei, and probably, I don't know, I would say probably 50 kilometers down, and she'd never seen a monkey in her life before, and she came this side, and it was her first experience to see a monkey. And that goes to show how much utilization and how little is really left. There's probably about 7,000 snares here, and because I've pulled most of them out, I'm in a position to be able to at least give some sort of a background to what I've found. And the thing is that the thing that worries me and concerns me, and I think it's not just true of this area, it's probably true of snaring everywhere, is that most of these snares I've probably found, of all the animals I've found, which is probably about 300 animals, 320 animals out of the 7,000 snares over a period of about 10 years. What I've found is a trend of all the animals I've found, I'd say at least 70 to 80% are rotting on the forest floor. And that doesn't convince me that the people that are doing it are necessarily starving. I think there's huge wastage involved.
And finally, day 237 out of 250. We're in Betty's Bay to go and check out the penguins there. Now, I know a lot of people don't know that penguins even exist in South Africa, and you don't often associate penguins in a hot country. But the waters around South Africa can get pretty cold, And we're surprisingly close to Antarctica. So let's have a look at some of the penguins in Betty's Bay.
Gorgeous.
So that's everything from our quick little look at some of the conservation projects we met over a decade ago on our first trip around South Africa in 2012. A few highlights. You could go and look out for a lot more on our website. Go and find out about some more of the projects. And thank you so much for joining. Tune us in again next time, and we'll see you there. Thanks so much, everyone. See ya. Bye.